the first thing I wanted to ask you is that you guys started your business in your early 20s. What advice do you have for young entrepreneurs who have an idea? Because I mean, I don't think you knew that it was going to scale the way that it did when you got into it, I bet.
Yeah, no. You know what? I'm happy we started right when we had the idea. Because like anything, it takes time to realize what it's going to become, right? So the earlier you start, the earlier you either make changes, you pivot, you fail, you grow, you learn. If I started now, that means like all of the difficulties of like those first few challenges would have been now and then would have happened after, right? So I think the earlier you start, the earlier you can really figure things out and make changes. And, you know, I think also a piece of advice I would give is that it's not as glamorous as it looks. And I'm sure you know that.
Oh my God, yes.
And also, I mean, I'm hoping that as a community of entrepreneurs, we change that it doesn't look so glamorous, right? Because it really isn't. But I also understand that when we are in our most difficult moments, the last thing I'm trying to do is share and get on my phone and cry in front of the camera, honestly.
I am totally with you, Hyla. And like, I think it's really interesting, right? Because when it comes to showing like the ugly of entrepreneurship, right? Like you are literally putting out a fire. And you have no time to document what that's like. And I like you'd actually have to have a camera crew following you around. Like I don't know how founders do it. Like to go on camera, like I don't have time to explain.
No.
I'm just fucking crushing whatever issues there.
There's so much happening when you're putting out fires that's like your mental is like the thing that once you put out the fire, it's like I need to rebound. I need to go back into my meditation. I need to go and take care of myself. I need to make sure that my boyfriend I haven't been in contact with all day, he's doing good. Like there's so much more that we need to do after putting out these fires, and getting on my TikTok and showing, hey guys, here's this extremely stressful thing that happened. Here's me crying. Here's me like
losing my shit.
That's the last thing we're going to do. But I don't know. I think maybe conversations like these are what's really important, because I think it's so important that people know that it's not just these fun, you know, panels and podcasts and shoots and influencer trips. That's not what it is. It's all the things you don't see that are extremely difficult.
I would say like 70% of the time is like really tough situations.
Yes.
But like as an entrepreneur, I think that you have to, that's what we signed up for, you know, and you almost have to like enjoy the chaos.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be like smooth sailing. And I think that, you know, we almost, yes, some days are really, really fucking tough, but it's almost like you don't really have a right to complain. And my dad told me that, because I remember early days where things would really stress me out, and I take things like, they would hit me emotionally, right? Because I felt so emotionally tied to my company, which is so normal, you know?
The ego, the pride.
Yeah.
All of it.
But my dad, because he's an entrepreneur as well, and he's like, you don't have the right to be upset about this. This is the life you chose. And if you don't want to deal with it, then you weren't cut out for this. And I was like, you're right.
So true. Every career has its pros and cons, has its challenges, has its wins, has its perks. We know that these are the challenges with entrepreneurship, and this is the one that we've signed up for, and we are best capable for these challenges.
Totally. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So let's talk about like on this same note, because I think it is really important to kind of give people a behind the scenes of like, you know, the non-glamorous bits. What was one really, really big challenge that you guys dealt with behind the scenes, which maybe people don't know? Like a calamity.
Comedy?
Like a calamity that happened.
There has been so many, and I'm talking every single year. I think there was a specific aspect that was a challenge for us. The first year was supply chain and manufacturing. Like,
it's a real joke.
Especially when you're a small business, they're not taking you seriously.
No,
oh my gosh, these like 6 months to get the product, right? So those were challenges, you know, getting our money stolen from us.
What?
From a manufacturer.
Sorry, what? We need to.
Oh, yeah. We lost $30,000 from a manufacturer in New York, right where we're sitting. Down the street, honestly.
Wait, how? What happened? Wait, am I allowed to ask that?
Of course. Yeah, of course. That's totally okay. So we were manufacturing, and we decided to do one collection design in New York because you know, we wanted to do it closer to home. And we came out to New York. So we came out to New York and we met up with this manufacturer. They treated us really good. We were at their space and we're seeing really top brands here, like even designer brands being produced here. They took us out. They treated us good. We figured out our samples there. We're like, we placed an order, $30,000. We paid them at this point. Next thing you know, they stopped answering their calls, and their email responses got a lot slower. All of a sudden now they're not responding to any emails, and they've stopped picking up their phone. And at this point, I've already promoted some of these styles. Rookie mistake. Entrepreneurs don't show too much of the samples until you have a really, solidified supply chain, because we had influencers ready for it. Our community was ready for these styles. Supposed to launch 2 months from now in the summer. It was our only summer collection design. This was our first year of the company. And $30,000, we were not getting paid at the time. Do you know how good splitting $30,000 between my co-founder and I would have been? Anyways, we were like, what's going on? I call my friend Matt, who's based out in New York. I said, hey, can you check out this place? Because we're in Toronto. He calls me, he's like, Hyla, I've got some bad news for you. They're not there. The front desk said they've fled overnight. They just ran away. They're gone. It apparently was this empty looking, like in the movies where you show up and it's like wind blowing through the window. It was like that. Nothing. We've never heard anything from them since. And, people ask, why don't you take it to court? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
the amount of effort. Yeah. It's like a whole thing. It's not, it's like not even worth it at that. It's a write-off. And it's a very painful write-off. Very painful,
especially at a time where, listen, $30,000 is a lot at any stage of a company.
Yeah.
But when $30,000 was close to almost like how we were making in 4 or 5 months of the business at the time.
That's insane. Wait, so what about all those brands that they were affiliate? Were they all fake?
No, because I literally saw rows and rows and rows of stuff. So I think that they probably went through the same thing. Yeah. Or maybe they had different procedures in place that protected themselves. I don't know.
Oh my God. So then what did you do?
You can't prevent yourself from these things, honestly, sometimes. What did we do? Nothing. We literally looked at each other. I remember we were in our place at the time and we said, we need to figure out a solution. And I kid you not, our solution became one of our value propositions as a company. So we had our styles that we already had. We were already selling. We quickly called our original manufacturer, say, hey, listen, can we get them in 2 other colors, right? We figured out a way to get them in these new shades. And what we did is we tried on these bathing suits and we said, can we tie this top any other way so that it can be a different top? And in that trial, we found 12 different ways to wear our Kenzie top.
Oh my, but that is 437 right now.
We were the first brand to come out with the 12 tops in one. And that is what propelled 437. So in that crisis came a blessing. And that, I think, is a really big lesson that we've kept. That mentality is that you will always get fires thrown at you, and you have to have this solution-oriented mindset at all times, because there will always be a solution.
Yeah. And also, I think that it's a real learning moment as well. I feel like every step that a company takes or an entrepreneur takes, it's like a leap forward, but that leap happens on account of everything you've learned the stage before.
Yes,
that makes sense.
You're building.
Yeah. And so if you don't go through something like that, it almost doesn't prepare you, not just from an operational standpoint, but from a revenue standpoint as well. Because if you think about it, who you were as an entrepreneur at $1 million revenue company versus a 10 versus probably how you get to 100, it's totally different. You know what I mean?
Completely different.
I think you're
oh my gosh
phased a lot less.
Yes. Things happen all the time and you're just okay.
Yeah.
Solution.
Yeah. I remember early days, things would happen our manufacturer is late and I'd just be there bawling. I called my mom up being they lost our products, literally ugly crying. Now I'm okay, no problem. What's next?
Yeah. Right. It's oh, this could be a lot worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're right.
Yeah. It's oh my God, that's a horrible, horrible situation to be in. So going through that, or having been through that experience, what do you do differently today to protect you against that you can teach to other younger entrepreneurs?
I think speak to referrals if you can. That's one, I really a lot of people are not sharing their manufacturers, rightfully so. But I genuinely believe that if there is a way you can find a place where you know the person who's placed the order, I think referrals in any part of business, referrals are always really important. A lot of times that's not the case. And I think that you have to really start in small batches. How's the communication right off the bat? Are they communicating fast with respect? How did the sample arrive? Did they send it to the right place on the right time with the right shipping courier, right? You have to take a look at these things because those little things end up being, oh, I should have seen the signs that they were really slow with their emails. You know, they were acting this way. And then I would say the third thing that we've learned is we don't like to promote anything until either it's in the warehouse or at that point we have like an established, okay, we know it's coming. We have solutions ready if it doesn't come. You know, we have backup inventory, things like that. But at the beginning of a company, when you're just banking on that shipment, I wouldn't start selling it, especially pre-orders, until you have a really good indication. Because we've even had moments where our boxes got shipped to Amazon's their warehouse. They never found it because obviously it's huge and down the street from our warehouse. So what do you do in those situations, right? So,
oh my God, it's actually a really, really smart tip. So I think that the like going from this and like how you made the most of this, like your Kenzie top situation. Talk to me about marketing because I think that it's something you guys have done exceptionally well. And so how did you start kind of gaining that traction, especially being from a city like Toronto? Because, I mean, we were talking off air, but we have a common friend, Maggie, and we were out on a walk earlier this week. And we were talking about like how in a city like New York or LA, you have this like huge support system of like other founders. It's like a very tight-knit community. And so you're almost like built to succeed. Whereas Toronto's a smaller city, let alone like 5-6 years ago, it was completely different. Now it's more up and coming. But back then it wasn't even what it is today. So what do you feel like were the success factors in like your whole marketing journey?
I think one of the most challenging parts about our journey became one of the reasons we were able to market. And it was because we were the customer and that, you know, no investors, not influencers, you know, no network that was in the fashion industry, the influencer industry. Like we were just two girls coming out of business school who were supposed to be like consultants and investment bankers or marketers, right? But we were the girl that was on Instagram following the influencers. We were the girls that were on Pinterest. We wanted to have that style like the blogger. We wanted to travel like her. We were that girl. And I think we were just really in tune with speaking to ourselves. How would we want to be spoken to? What influencers were we following? What sort of content did we like? And we were so inspired by so many female entrepreneurs, but a lot of them were influencers at the time or coming from LA and New York, like you said, right? And I think what we were just able to do is really try to speak. And I think community and humanization at 437 is something we really like to prioritize. And it's just in our DNA, like community over everything. Like if we can bring something for Toronto and make it special, we do it whenever we can. You know, if we can show our team behind, like we have our close friends on Instagram and it's just, people are so in tune with like our nail polish color we post on our close friends or like the books we're reading because, you know, we just want to speak to that girl because like we are her. I am her. You know, there's no difference between like I'm living this like insane life with like 2 million followers and like it's really unrelatable. It's like I'm in your position. I'm in the workout classes with you. I am, you know, taking the public transit in Toronto with you. And so we're really trying to speak to who we are since day one at 437. And even as we're growing, you know, now I'm 27, I'm not the 21-year-old that co-founded the company. So how do I speak to now 27-year-olds? What are we doing? How are we traveling now? What are we wearing now?
When you started, was your strategy to appeal to like kind of capture the Toronto market before you went out to everyone else, or it was more so like kind of global?
Such a good question. Because we actually started in Kingston, Ontario, where our university was at Queen's. And I remember thinking, we're not trying to be a Kingston brand, no offense, but like such a small university town, right? And we're like, this was when like literally e-commerce was just budding, right? Shopify was just budding. And we were like, well, I think the whole point of these online companies is that it doesn't matter where I am standing. It's about where we are actually marketing towards with like influencers, ads, like whatever it might be, right? So we actually, because brands and entrepreneurs were not really like a thing, like, you know, in Toronto at that time, we were like, I don't know if it actually is a thing. So we're like, we need to go and make it big, like globally, or like at least North America, like US first, and then bring it back. So we really didn't disclose like 437, where is it from? Where are we? We just wanted to kill it. So we worked with PR agencies right from the get. We really worked on celebrity placements. We really worked on influencer marketing. We just wanted North America, like US and Canada, to be saturated with just, you'll see it everywhere. And then when we got a little bit of credibility, you know, and again, we're still a small business, but for us at that time, we were like, okay, now Toronto, like, this is like, now we put up a billboard that summer. We started throwing events in Toronto. This was like 2 years into the company. And we're so proud to be from Toronto, but we really just wanted to prove that, listen, like we can get excitement and momentum beyond Toronto first. And now almost like we prioritize Toronto because that is our big support. Like that is home for us. But still to this day, US is our bigger customer base.
I think this is such an important conversation because and as like a Canadian brand myself, you know, we kind of went through this whole thing as well, right? Whereby I think that if you market yourself as like Canadian first, okay, right from the get-go, you almost get boxed in as this cute Canadian brand, you know? Whereas like, I think that if you are a little bit more voracious in like your pursuit, right? And you know that, okay, like I want to go for North America in general, you can then focus in on that, like in Toronto, like just like you guys have, you know, after you've kind of like already made a splash and you're out there.
Exactly. It's not like we're not proud to be from Toronto, but we actually want to solidify ourselves North America first and then bring it back. And now that have more perhaps money to work with, then we can have bigger events, more opportunities for Toronto, hire more in Toronto, right? And I think it really goes full circle.
Yeah, I remember when I first started seeing you guys pop up, it was like from big influencers, like celebrities were wearing it. And it was really cool later, like around that same time when I was like, oh, they're fucking Canadian too. Like, look at them, you know, like they went and they did the damn thing. And it was just really cool to see that you guys weren't just kind of focused in on the Canadian market, but instead you were like, okay, no, we're going to take everyone. You know what I mean? It was really cool.
No, it is interesting. And I think nowadays, you know, the market has definitely shifted. I think that, you know, you can be really like local and proud and really hone in on that and try to saturate a lot more in that one community. But in the world of e-commerce, why box yourself in? Be proud of where you're from, but you know, I mean, our shipping rates are actually better to the US than they are to Canada. So
can we talk about this? Because what the fuck?
I know.
We dealt with the same thing. Like I remember, like, I mean, for like a long time, it was just like shipping out of our own apartment. And right away, it was like the rates to the US were cheaper than Canada. And we were shipping from Canada back then. And we were like, what the hell is going on? Like, why is it cheaper for me to like literally ship something across the border to a different country, even to the West Coast in LA from Toronto versus to, I don't know, Saskatchewan or Vancouver in Canada.
And faster in the US. Like, come on,
our Canadian customers were so upset. And I was like, trust me, like we are trying here. Canada Post doesn't like us.
No.
Like they don't like us.
I don't know.
It was... Anyway.
Yeah, they need to figure it out.
They really need to figure it out. Honestly, I could go on and on about this, but yeah, it's like a real thing.
Absolutely.
So something you guys, I mean, you've talked about it, that like you really did hone in on community.
Yeah.
And I think that's something you guys have done, which is almost like, I see it as like two arms of a marketing umbrella, is community and influencer, okay? And I feel like you've gone hard on both. Of course, they bleed into one another as well. But talk to me about community. Like, what are some kind of scrappy ways that new founders can focus in on community?
This is great. I actually just spoke about all of this in the course.
Oh, amazing.
When I was filming a month ago. So I've got like 8 little tips and tricks. But I can hone in on a few here. But community, there's online community and then there's in real life community. So it really depends. Like, are you a brand that you're working out of Bali and you're trying to target the US? Then you're focusing on online versus if you are in person, like a Toronto-based brand, for example, or LA-based brand, for a community like that, I would say start with events, right? But again, okay, we just started out. What do you mean an event? As you scale, that the size of the event scales too, right? It could be something really small, like going to those like pop-up markets where your brand is there, right? And then as you grow bigger, and collaborating with other brands and doing pop-ups together is such a great way to save money.
So smart.
And you're getting double, triple the foot traffic. I'm always thinking of ideas like that. But ultimately, it comes down to the person responsible for community. So at 437, I led up the marketing team when my co-founder would lead up the design and operations. So
we're the same, by the way.
Are we?
Yeah. Like, Niches, I'm all creative. Niches, all operations.
And we're both sitting here right now. Yeah. And actually, by the way, that's so great for business partners.
So,
because you never want to do the thing they want to do. They don't want to do what you do.
Thank you.
Like, she would not want to be doing this, and I don't want to be looking at a screen.
And honestly, if you're doing the same thing, like, how are you covering more ground? You have to divide and conquer and like really play. Like, if you guys both have the same strengths, sorry, don't be co-founders. Just don't.
100%. And I know we're going off topic, but actually I had a business coach this week tell me, why are you two on the same meetings all the time? Like overview, like leadership meetings, but often every single week, many times a week. Like, why are you guys on the same calls when you guys are really thinking almost in the same way? Because on a leadership standpoint, we really do think the same.
Yeah.
So it's just like, focus in on like what you guys' strengths are. You don't have to be on like the design call up
totally
at the same time.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you, and such a good point, because I think it's something that Nish and I realized like early on. So like obviously like first year of business or first 8 months of business, we were both on every single call.
Yeah.
And then we're like, wait a minute, like this is just a poor use of our time, because we are like, the main thing is that overarchingly we have the same vision. We align on that vision. We're really, I mean, we live together and we're married. So it's like literally all we talk about. But as long as you're aligned on that, why not divide and conquer, you know?
And efficiency and mental health, like all it plays into all of that.
Yeah.
Why overwork ourselves
when
it's already really stressful?
It's totally. And like, it was funny because we were at a meeting with our PR team this morning, and Nish had no idea what we were doing. And I was like, good, like, you know what? You don't need to know. And
I got this.
Yeah. And frankly speaking, like sometimes I'll go in on like one of his meetings, like randomly, and I'm like, huh? What? But I know he's got
good.
it.
Yeah, that's like me on the ops team. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Packages are going out. We're good.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good tip. And I think that like if you have a co-founder, if you're looking for a co-founder, make sure that skill sets are like complementary and just fucking stay in your lanes. Two people don't need to be doing the same shit.
Yeah.
Not necessary. Okay, back to community.
Back to community. Okay. I think it's really important it really helps having a face of the brand or founders, or it is nice. It's not necessary because I totally understand some people don't want to do that, but it is someone to connect to. And at least maybe in Duolingo, it's the
owl or whatever it is.
Okay, at least a point to connect with is really important. Really being out there in the community. And I guess what I was trying to say is these sort of things, you know, coming and speaking, whether it's like your local podcast or going back to university and speaking to a classroom on marketing, for example. Like Adrien and I make a point every single year to do about like 2 to 3 like university talks and even do like campus tours where we bring product there and sell, because that is our up and coming like customer, right? So that is a really great way how to build community. Get them familiar with your team. And even if you don't have a team yourself, people are like, oh, I don't have an aesthetic office. I'm working out of my basement. Show that. Like, that's actually a huge part of community. I mean, I'm thinking community as like this feeling of just closeness and relatability, you know, and people can actually be like, okay, it's not just this brand with budget and I have no idea who's behind it. Like, I think community comes from being able to connect with the brand, and it's the intangible. It's like in this world, as we both know, like how many competitors pop up, like the amount of bathing suit brands that are launching every single day, right? Why are people going to keep coming back to you when people are going to constantly copy your exact product? Like they're taking your styles to a manufacturer and saying, I want the same fabric, the same cut, right? Why are people going to come back to your brand? It is your community. So it's something that we really prioritize a lot now. And especially as the influencer marketing world is also shifting, are the influencers your community? And that's, what we're really understanding now.
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree with you more on the point that you said about like a face, quote unquote, to the brand. I think people inherently like to buy from people, and people like to root for people, okay? Yeah. I think that nowadays there is this whole element that consumers almost expect that like, I will trust a brand if I know kind of like who's there. Yeah. And I don't know, like I just think it's this relatability, and that's kind of what people like. I don't know, it's like maybe like the whole TikTok Gen Z universe where everything is like authentic and raw and out there. People kind of want to peek behind the scenes,
yes, they do. But what's so interesting is that in that same world of having a face of the brand, I can see why a lot of people don't want to do it, because we also live in a world where you are under a microscope. Scrutiny. Yeah. You're like, so scrutinized. I'm so curious as to like how you feel about it, because you also are super engaged on social. And it's like sometimes I get scared to like voice my opinion on like something about the company, or how my thoughts on this community or influencer marketing or whatever that might be, because I am scared that like there are people out there that just are waiting for your one mistake. And to be honest, if we want to be in a world where we see more businesses succeed, especially female-run businesses, we actually need to almost applaud mistakes, because these are people putting themselves out there for all of us to see their mistakes, right? Like, no one's perfect. Imagine us running, like, imagine someone who who isn't running a company is telling someone how to do it better.
Yeah, I mean, cancel culture is very strong. It's very scary.
It's almost like bully culture.
It is. It really is.
Cyberbully culture.
It is,
not
because
really cancel.
When someone trips or like makes a mistake, it's like, what, are we not allowed to do that anymore? Are we not allowed grace anymore? And like, what, we're just gonna yell at someone who does make a mistake? Like, how does someone learn from that?
And the crazy thing to me is that people think with canceling that they're gonna teach this person a lesson. But we actually did this diversity and inclusion training at 437, and we brought on this like HR team, and they actually taught us the difference between calling in and calling out. And calling in is when, okay, like this person did this thing that's wrong, and I felt some type of way about it. I'm going to reach out to them privately and say, hey, like what you did really upset me in this way. And you see how they respond, because that actually gives them the moment to learn from it, versus you're going to put them publicly and humiliate them. All they're thinking in that moment is, I am mortified. How could I do this? Like, they're not, how can they even process that mistake, right?
And then there's no deep learning from it,
no.
Right? And you're almost then like resentful, and especially like I think if people's like certain people's personality types, right, like it doesn't teach you anything. Like I found that anytime I've tripped up in life, right, the most like I've actually like turned and changed if I like learned something from it, truly learned something from it, not berated about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wish that as a community of women, because a lot of these negative comments also come from women.
I know.
And it's so sad. And I'm like, first of all, if you're ever going to call someone out for their mistake, before you put that message, write your biggest mistake in life first. Oh, could be work, could be relationship, could be the time you shoplifted, whatever. Put that first and then call someone out. Then you'd start seeing not many people calling people out anymore. But then secondly, what I'm seeing with cancel culture is that they're not even saying, hey, so-and-so on their pictures. They're not commenting, oh, you're not, I would have preferred to see you say, they're saying, you suck. You're the worst business owner. That's what I'm seeing out there. It's like, who raised you? Like
it's really like nasty.
It's not really constructive whatsoever.
No.
And I'm like, and you don't have a profile attached to your name. That's hilarious.
I mean, it's pretty insane, because like, listen, I think as a founder, we can both agree that we are very open to feedback, okay?
Absolutely. I'm not perfect whatsoever.
No, absolutely not. I am not perfect. And I know that like in order to get to any level of like, growth, you actually have you have to learn from like whatever you're doing wrong.
And is this your first time being a business owner?
Yes.
Same. I mean, how are we going to get it right all the time? We're not.
No.
Imagine figure skating for the first time.
Yeah, okay. True.
I'm sure I'm going to fall a bunch of times, especially trying to do the tricks and jumps, which is what we're expected to do as things scale when we're not ready for it.
Yeah, people are, and you know, we've had conversations, amazing conversations with customers who've given us feedback, but like coming from a place of like genuine caring, you know, and there's like a way to deliver feedback being like, you know, you can do this better, whether it's like an operational issue or packaging, whatever it is, like shipping time, I don't know, you know, 100 things versus I can't believe like this is the standard. And I'm just like, what?
And it's like they'll comment on a photo of like your businesses first before even reaching out to your customer service. And then your customer service might be like, you didn't put your address in right. But then they're like, I didn't get a package for like a month. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm far from perfect, but I do think that in my journey now, 5 years into the company, almost 6 even, I am so much more in my element of prioritizing my mental health, my well-being, my spiritual health, you know, improving myself, right? And you just realize that like this, you don't want negativity in your life anymore. It can come from like unhealthy criticism. It could come from stress. It could come from being, you know, looking out for negative comments of yourself. And I think it's just so important to focus on like your inner well-being, because I've really gone through this journey, and like no amount of a successful company or money or influencer trips or cool PR events that you get invited to, or even just customer feedback, none of that will make you like, none of that is worth sacrificing your health. None of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Your health is so important. And how many times have we seen successful people really unhappy, right? We see it all the time.
Burnout.
Why? Because success does not bring you happiness. And if you're passionate about it, like we are, about our companies and our ethos and our visions, you do it because you love it, but never to jeopardize your health and your wellness and your inner peace, like that voice inside of you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And actually on this note, speaking of mental health as a founder, because this is actually something that I am currently dealing with, and I'd love to know your thoughts. You know how like your business really takes up literally all of your mental real estate, even whether it's on the weekend or whatever it is. It's always there. What are things that you do to kind of like prioritize your mental health?
That's a really great question.
It's not easy.
It's not. And I will honestly say right now, I haven't figured it out fully, but I will be transparent and say I'm very much working on it. I just did a 3-day seminar. My entire weekend was on stuff like this. I'm enrolled in so many different self-development courses and spirituality courses. You know, last 6 months ago, I did a 2-week full detox in Thailand. No phone, no food. Like it was just a complete fast. It was everything.
Wait, okay. How did you even step away to do that? Like what?
You have to set that boundary, and you have to say this is important.
Yeah.
And also because I want my team even to think in that mentality. I never want my team to be burnt out. I don't want my co-founder to be burnt out. And again, like I said, I genuinely believe that nothing is worth your health. And to be honest with you, a lot of this comes from my mom. She was a dentist by trade, but she had a bunch of dental offices by the age of like 45. And by the time she was 50, she sold all of them. And she just bought a little land in Ecuador because she started getting sick. So when she noticed she was sick, she sold everything. She went to India for a few months, did a panchakarma. Whatever she had, the disease, she cured it by herself. And she realized that she was just going and going and going. And it was really making her sick. And she wasn't even happy. And she's like, Hyla, every single day she tells me, Hyla, you seem so stressed. Oh my gosh, you're 20, at the time 23. Why are you so stressed? She's like, it's not worth it. Like no amount of money, no amount of having Forbes 30 under 30. Like it's not, what are you like, even having an incredible woman around the world feeling confident in their bodies in a bathing suit is not worth you literally getting sick at the age of 50 and having to give it all up. Like there are ways to balance it out. So I've just learned through her that I need to make it a priority. I sit down with Adrien and I say, we need to do this or else the company is doomed. So I think to answer your question is that I remind myself that I'm not 437, because that was a huge issue in my life a couple of years ago. That ego attachment, and just general attachment. But then when we get a negative comment, oh, I would just be in that for days, or positive highs, I would just be on this high for a long time, right? then I just realized that like, as much as it's my baby and it is a big part of my life, there's so much more to my life than that. And that is why I really started prioritizing like retreats, more quality time with my boyfriend, my friends, travel, family. And like, you really have to do your hobbies. Hobbies are a big one, like dance, walk, cooking, right? Because when you genuinely believe that like 437 is me, I am 437, you are just at the mercy of its performance. That's not healthy.
Honestly, like so important, because I think as an entrepreneur, to like preserve your mental health, you have to be stoic about your business, because you can't, like, your happiness can't be determined by this thing that is so kind of volatile.
Every startup is. So imagine if your mental health was that exact same diagram of a startup.
And honestly, like for the first over a year, Hyla, like that's how it was and I think every founder goes through this, where like they are so emotionally attached to their business that everything is personal, and it just can't be, like I think it's really good that you bring it up, that your entire personality cannot be your brand. It's just, you can't hinge your entire happiness on this one thing.
Absolutely. I'm grateful that I've really worked towards my mental health during this whole journey, but my darkest days over the last 5 years have always correlated with an attachment, an ego attachment or a personal attachment to 437, and its ups and downs, but in those moments, the downs, right? And so I'm telling you, like, my genuine passion right now in this stage of my life, in this stage of my career, is to inspire women that if you want to have that success in that company, incredible, like you got this, but you have to make sure that you're prioritizing your health, wellness, and spirituality. I'm very into spirituality, and just making sure that that's a really big part of your practice, because again, like I said, make sure you're balancing all of that, because you get to the point of success, however you define success, and then you're like, you still want more. So then at what point do you start focusing on that health and that lifestyle?
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say this, because I remember last year we were going through this like very, very extremely like critical and super busy time for Rae. And I stopped working out. I stopped cooking. I stopped doing literally everything. Like I was so consumed by this critical juncture. And I remember being like, Nish and I would talk, and I'd be like, we'd both be like, oh, we'll work out when this is over. Like we will, we will start cooking when this is over. And then we realized that like it's not over. Like once this is over, it's like another thing, and it's never easier. It's never stable.
No.
It's never like smooth sailing. And so after that experience, and then like when we were going through this whole thing, like it was like really, really busy, ended up having an accident, like literally as we were nearing the end of this like busy period, which wasn't the end of a busy period at all, Yeah. And then after that, I was like, I'm never doing this again.
Never.
Because it's just not worth it. And so now, no matter how busy it gets, I've like not gotten to the point where I can go on a retreat, although like I need to learn from you, and like hopefully I will get there.
Yeah.
But I at least have very strong boundaries around what I am and I'm not able to compromise on. So like, for example, I don't care how busy my day is. I am going to work out.
Yep.
I'm going to go out in the morning for my walk, and I will not take a meeting in that like sacred 1 hour time frame. Everything can wait. Because if not, like how do you care for your business if you've not cared for yourself?
And people might have the excuse, well, it's 3 years, then I'm trying to get my company acquired, so it's just these 3 years. No, because let's just say, for my own example, let's just say 437 has a super busy period for 4 years, right? And then I'm like, then I'm going to take care of myself. Well, then what if I want to have a baby at that time? As if a baby is any less work than a company. Absolutely not. I mean, it's so much work. Then what? Oh, I'm not going to take care of myself because I have a newborn. Oh, but then I have a toddler.
It's always one thing or the other. It just doesn't get easier.
You just have to have those priorities, your non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables? And yes, as a busy woman who wants to have it, almost all of it, you almost need to be like, okay, what am I willing to sacrifice a couple things, right? Sometimes I know when work is really busy, I don't always cook.
Yeah.
I might just take out or I make easy dishes, right? Sometimes, right? Or when I hang out with my friends, we're going to do a workout together so I can do a 2-in-1, right? Or I'm not going to go out late at night because I have to wake up early. You have to know where you're sacrificing at all times. But like you said, non-negotiable. For you, it's your workout and your walks, you know, and for someone else, it might be this and that. Their family day on Wednesdays, they always go and see their grandma for lunch. Whatever brings them that inner peace and that joy. Because joy is so important. And sometimes too much in life, too much stimulation, too much, oh my God, on the go, you lose that joy. And joy is such an important word. I don't think we use it enough.
I agree. Joy. And I think it's so important to like constantly center yourself and reflect back on like, okay, like, is my life bringing me joy right now? Oh, it's not. What's missing? Because I think it just, when things are moving so fast, you're almost like reactive versus proactive. And I think asking these like big questions kind of helps bring you back to like your purpose, you know?
Yes.
And I don't think it's worth doing life unless like you have joy in it.
Absolutely. And I know that a lot of my time now gets focused on, you know, the courses I now sell about entrepreneurship and, you know, how to grow a company, how to scale a company. But I'm really wanting to make sure that people understand that it's not just you focus in on that and you're like losing sight of everything else. And that is sometimes my worry. And that's why I make sure like in the courses I am speaking to the holistic approach. But I know that as like entrepreneurs, it's so easy to just have that goal and just work towards business. And you're like, I will do anything it takes to get this and this and this. You just realize like things like certain titles, that $1 million mark, that Forbes list, it's just, I mean,
it doesn't matter at the end of the day if you don't have.
It's an awesome business accolade, but genuinely your relationship, if you're in one, or who you are with your relationship with yourself, your family, genuine friendship, and then like time for those hobbies that bring you joy, like that's life. But of course, having that career that brings you fulfillment, like you put that all together, your spirituality, your learning and growing, like that's what I'm aspiring to, and I don't have even yet.
But you're working on it at least. I think like just the self-awareness and conversations around it, I think is really important because for so long it was like just hustle culture, right? And just kill yourself, nothing matters.
Sleep when you die.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
what?
I want to sleep now.
I'm going to get my 9 hours tonight.
Fuck yeah. It's true though, you know? And so I think it's really important that entrepreneurs do speak about this and are candid about it. And like, you know, we're on a journey. Yeah. I'm by no means close to there. I'm sure you aren't either. You know, you're better than I am, but like, you know, you're working on it. And I think that new entrepreneurs also like, especially, you know, 6 months, a year into the business, you're still a rookie. I think that like rookie as in like, I mean, we're all rookies, but like you tend to be like really emotionally attached and you feel like your success is defined by the success of your company. But there's like, actually, it's much more multidimensional than that.
Yeah, it's one of those fine lines you just have to be very careful about.
Yeah.
It is very difficult because it's your baby. It's your, you know, and you just have to make sure your ego doesn't really get attached.
Yeah. And I remember where like for a long time, it was like I was so focused on my career that all of my relationships took a back seat. And I realized one day that I was like, I've missed so much.
Yeah.
I've missed so many milestones with my friends. I've been like a shitty friend, you know? And then I was like, I'm not going to do this again. Like if my friends need me, I'm going to be there, not just in the bad, but like good as well.
Yeah.
Because who's going to reach out to you when things are going bad if you can't be there to like celebrate all the wins and like
wouldn't you say that even during those critical building years where like you really have to be head down, if you stepped away to go to that friend's birthday, would it have made an impact?
No, it wouldn't.
It wouldn't have, right?
And like that's what I think you don't realize because you're so in it. But I wish I could go back and give my younger self this piece of advice that I know that our career is important, okay? Like it's like, I mean, it's everything. Yeah. But those relationships are so important. Like you can't just take them for granted. You can't expect that you can put everyone else on pause while you're out there like pursuing your own shit and everything will be the same when you come back years later. That's not how it works.
No.
So
I know. I literally feel that as well. Even not even just like that spending time, but was I present when I was on the phone with my family?
Totally.
Was I there? was I taking care of myself?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know, I loved going to dance classes, tennis class. I haven't done any of that in forever. Salsa lessons, like that stuff brings me insane amounts of joy. And I don't remember the last time I did one of those. So important to just remember that, like, when you're end of your days, when you're on your deathbed, is what I hear, is that no one's thinking about how much money they have in the bank account, or did their company have a million customers. They're just thinking, like, did I make an impact in this world, and was I happy, and was I there with my family and my friends? And I don't know, I just like to think about that deeper stuff now at this stage, right? It seems like us both.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned spirituality. What kind of practices do you do for that?
Spirituality.
Like, do you have certain practices?
Yes, I do. Meditation is one that I'm still a work in progress in. I make a time to do it. I wouldn't say I'm like the best at it yet in terms of like my patience. You know, I get that jittery feeling sometimes after that like 10, 15 minute mark at this point. Spirituality to me also is sort of like the connectedness with my well-being and life beyond. Also, I think doing retreats, doing self-development, but not in like the finance self-development. It's just more of like the inner peace self-development. Reading books on that, waking up in the morning and doing gratitude. You know, spirituality doesn't always have to look so voodoo to some people, right? Like, to me, spirituality is, do I feel connected? Is my soul connected to something greater? Taking care of myself. Like, spirituality is when you are doing your skincare, are you feeling present in that moment, right? And I, you know, how many years ago is it now? 5, 6 years ago, before 437. Yeah. I went and became a certified yoga instructor, not because of teaching yoga. I'm like not flexible. So like, I wasn't thinking about teaching yoga classes, but for the spirituality, I went to one of the most origin like yoga centers, like very from India type of yogic practices. Yoga is not just the poses. It's really is the way of life that's come from India. And I did a lot of that, and that really started that like spirituality journey for me. But I will 1,000% admit that spirituality hasn't been on the forefront, but it's something that my mom always brings me back to. So going to Thailand and doing those sort of retreats, and you know, you're doing the chanting at night and you're doing the yoga and the meditation in the morning, like that to me is that holistic spirituality that I'm striving to incorporate in more into the day-to-day, rather than feeling like I need to do a retreat or a seminar. How do you, what's that? How do you practice it every single day? That's what I'm working towards, though.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's important, and people should kind of think about it as well. Because I think that, you know, the same way that we tend for our mind and body, I think like spirituality or soul is super, super important as well. And I think like we have to nurture that part of ourselves.
Absolutely. And doing the inner work to me.
Yeah.
Lately I've been doing that, childhood, things like that.
Yeah,
very
smart.
important.
Love that. Okay, so we've discussed so much, but before we wrap, I want to do a quick rapid fire.
Let's do it.
Okay, so what is one habit that's a non-negotiable for you?
Working out every day.
Love that. Okay, same. What's one business book that you love?
Oh my gosh, so many.
Top 3.
You know what? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't talk a lot about my real estate, but I think as a smart person thinking about finance, it's what are you doing with your money? Really important to think about. So that's more about your own personal finance. I think in the business, I don't know. Can I just stick with the Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, edit that second part.
What's your best wellness tip as an entrepreneur?
Tip as an entrepreneur. It's so based on each person. For me, it's getting enough sleep. But I think sleep and what you put in your body, an inside-out approach for me is so important, because that's how you perform. Like, we're focusing way too much on makeup and skincare. Let's focus more on like what we're putting in our bodies.
Love that tip. Hyla, this has been so fun. Tell everyone where they can find you.
They can find me personally at Hyla Nayeri on Instagram, and of course at 437. And if anyone's interested in starting a business or even scaling their business to $1 million+, I have 2 courses at how-tf.com, and you can find everything entrepreneurial related there.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Siv.